So you've seen clips, videos, and streams of the monk shattering all of the enemies on screen. You may have even heard about a unique ring which treats chilled enemies as frozen and therefore shatters them. Yeah, you don't have it, not much use. You may or may not know that you don't actually need that unique ring. It does enhance it, but it's not necessary. So why, when you try to use your ice skills that are powered up with ice boosting support gems, can you not replicate that wave of shattering mobs? I'm going to give you a super easy build to follow that is based around 2 skills. A very simple low budget monk build, which I didn't come up with, but I've seen knocking around online. I thought I've got to try this for myself, and I ran into some issues too. The 2 skills you're going to need, and are probably very familiar with already as a monk, are the persistent buffs that reserve 30 spirit each, Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice, but in a completely counterintuitive and seemingly counterproductive way. If you're unfamiliar, Herald of Thunder calls down bolts of lightning, with subsequent attacks after you've killed shocked enemies. It's very powerful and the bolt hits in a nice AoE. Herald of Ice, on the other hand, causes an ice explosion after shattering a frozen enemy, which is why the unique ring which has that effect on chilled enemies is so good for this. Okay, cool, so obviously we gotta boost Herald of Ice with all of these ice support gems, right? No, wrong, idiot! Are you stupid? If you had the unique ring, that's probably all you need to do, and you'd be grand. Use all the ice support gems, boost your ice damage as much as you can through your passive tree and through your gear, boom, you'll be fine. And this is the bit I was talking about before, which is really counterintuitive and seems counterproductive. You can cause both of your heralds to bounce off each other in a loop, causing this shattering wave effect of the mobs by putting in ice support gems into your Herald of Thunder and lightning support gems in your Herald of Ice. Allow me to explain further. Let's take a look at Herald of Thunder first. With Cold Infusion, it deals 25% additional damage as cold damage and 50% less lightning and fire. What this is going to do is cause your lightning bolts from Herald of Thunder to deal a lot of cold damage in addition to some lightning damage, meaning your lightning bolts can freeze enemies, with your chance to do so being based on how much cold damage you're dealing. This can be further boosted with support gems, of course, and the more gem slots you've got, the better, but this does work with the default 2 that you start with. Let's say you've got 3 slots. I would use Cold Infusion, that's a necessity, alongside Cold Penetration to penetrate 30% cold resistance, and Ice Bite to gain 35% of damage as cold damage for 3 seconds on freezing an enemy with said skill. I know, you've already figured it out. So when you're killing shocked enemies with attack damage, which is most of the monk's moves, your following attacks will proc Herald of Thunder, calling down bolts of lightning, which are now inflicting a large amount of cold damage, freezing enemies. Given these bolts are very powerful, they easily wipe mobs. If you're freezing these mobs as you're killing them, what's that gonna do? That's right, it procs Herald of Ice, which explodes for damage when shattering frozen mobs. You already know what support gems we're gonna be using with Herald of Ice. We're gonna be using goddamn lightning support gems. Let's pretend it's 3 slots again and mirror the gems that we put in for Herald of Thunder. Starting with Lightning Infusion to get 25% more lightning damage and 50% less cold, Lightning Penetration to breach 30% of their resistances, and Innovate to get 35% additional lightning damage upon killing a shocked enemy with said skill. If you've got more slots, you can increase your chance to shock with Herald of Ice and your freeze build up with Herald of Thunder. So what this is going to do now is when a frozen enemy is shattered, the explosion from Herald of Ice is going to deal a lot of lightning damage, which will shock enemies as it kills them. Yeah, which will give you Herald of Thunder to call down bolts of lightning, killing enemies as it freezes them, proccing Herald of Ice to follow up, causing the domino shattering pack clearing effect. And that's it. That's the build. That's how you can do this without the unique ring. And it's really effective. It may not be as crazy because you're not going to be using Flicker Strike to go all over the screen and do stuff like that, but it will just explode packs of mobs really nicely. Now, what is key is that you set up your gear and your passives in order to build up elemental damage, specifically ice and lightning damage. Not only that, but also passives that increase your chance to shock and increase freeze buildup. For the popping wave effect to occur, you need to hit a DPS check, a freeze check, and a shock check. All 3 are going to need to occur to smoothly do this. So ensure that you're using a quarterstaff and gloves, for example, that are adding a really good amount of cold and lightning damage. Maybe focus out additional lightning and ice damage on your rings, and definitely make sure you're going for the right passives as well, such as the cluster that's just north of the beginning area of the monk's passive tree, which gives you 10% elemental damage increased nodes, and Echoing Frost, which is 30% increased elemental damage if you've chilled an enemy recently, as well as Echoing Thunder, which does the same if you've shocked an enemy recently. recently. Essence of the Storm and Essence of the Mountain are both fantastic too, and they're very early on in the Monk's tree as well. The former giving you 5% of damage as extra lightning damage, and a 30% increased chance to shock, and the latter giving you 5% of damage as extra cold damage, with 20% increased freeze buildup. Both fantastic. Find the shock and lightning damage nodes, find the freeze and ice damage nodes, and then go in whichever direction you want to go. You will also benefit from increasing attack damage as well, as the moves you're going to be using are your Ice Strike or your Shockwave or whatever to trigger the domino shattering effect. It's precisely those two skills which I like to use as my core abilities. Both work because it doesn't matter whether you're shocking enemies first or whether you're freezing them. You're going to cause the domino wave either way. If I want to get stuck in and zip around the place, I'll be using Ice Strike. I can use this in conjunction with Shattering Palm or any ability that zips you across, just for those times where the combo isn't pulling me towards the mobs. On the other hand, if I just want to stand back and watch a wave of destruction in front of me, I'll use Storm Wave. Keeps me out of any poison pools or fire ground or anything like that. Having the flexibility of both is fantastic. Not only can I focus on lightning damage over ice damage and vice versa, but I've also got long versus short range too. And if I want to build up combo for Temper Spell, for example, I can focus on the melee with Ice Strike. What I've found with this setup is I've got no need for managing power orbs. I've removed the ability to build them entirely. And it also means I haven't built around these big finishers like Flicker Strike or Falling Thunder. That doesn't mean that you can't. I had so much fun with Falling Thunder, it's a great skill. As is Flicker Strike, it's absolutely insane if you build it properly. That may change in the future, but for now I've got this fantastic build which is super easy to make, that I've not needed to be at tier 15 maps in Endgame to be able to make, and it's just really based around two skills. I've gone from consistently failing level 3+ maps to now just absolutely clearing my way through the level 5 ones. And this is really something I've been screaming out for. Not something that's going to help me get through acts 1 to 6. I had Storm Wave, that did the job, thank you. And not something that's going to be helpful at level 15 maps as well, when you've literally just become a god. To reiterate, you will need to meet the DPS check, the freeze check, and the shock check. That's how it all loops and dominoes. It wasn't until I respec my skill tree entirely and improved a bunch of my gear, and I really did improve it, that I started seeing the packs of mob just explode in waves. Hopefully this is helpful and it's something that you can put into practice as well. At least give it a try, give it a spin, and see how it works out for you. I'm going to show you how it works in practice in a tier 5 map, which is where I currently am at, just to show you how great it does work for me. I'm a dip and let you enjoy the map clear, but thank you very much for watching. If this was helpful, do subscribe for more Path of Exile too, but until next time, I'll see you in Rayclast.